Also in our investigation, we looked at circumference, and we found out that the circumference is about 3 times the diameter, which we then learn is pi. And we know that pi is always going to be equal to that the approximate of 3. So we say 3 pi equals 3.14. Some of you have discovered that on your calculators there's a lot more decimals, and thus your answer will have more decimals in it. And you can use either one. Both you're going to have to use your rounding skills for your final answers. But if you're using the actual calculator pi button, just understand that when you're comparing to your peers, your answer might be off by 3/10 of a decimal place. So circumference about 3 times the diameter. When you're trying to remember formulas, keep that phrase in your mind, and it will help you think about the formula of C equals it doesn't want to go there. C equals pi times d. Yeah, because I'm in this screen, we'll do another one. We could also say C equals pi, and rather than diameter, what do we know about diameter when we talk about radius? Is it the bigger or smaller one? Well, it's bigger. And how much bigger is it compared to the radius? It's 2 times the radius. So those are your two formulas for circumference, pi times diameter, or pi times twice the radius. Now when we do it all in one line, we actually write the 2 out front as the constant. We'll just put both those in. Those are our two formulas that we want to use. So now let's say the question is given and we have the diameter is 6 meters. We're going to start with our formula of C equals pi times d. We have 3.14 times the 6. That was our diameter. And then we're going to have 18.84. And 2 decimal places is what we're looking for. Still in meters because we're talking about perimeter. Circumference is just a fancy word for perimeter. Now what happens if they gave us radius? So let's say the radius was 2. You can do it 2 ways. You can say, okay, I know how to find diameter, which is diameter equals 2r. And 2 times 2 is 4. And now I can do it exactly like I did in this first part. I do pi times my diameter. But if you wanted to do it all in one step, you could do C equals 2 times pi times r. And we're going to have 2 times 3.14 times 4. Or sorry, times 2 is our radius. And then it's just calculator work. 3.14 times 4 is 12.56. The tricky part comes, almost a straight line. Tricky part comes with what happens if we need the diameter and we only have the circumference. We know how much edging we have around the pool, but we want to know how wide it's going to be, something of that nature. So let's say the circumference is 56. what is my diameter? So when you think about your circle formulas, think about, well, what formula do I have that I can have circumference and diameter in the same equation? Well, we have c equals pi times d. And we need to get d by itself. We want the diameter is the variable that we're solving for, so we want to get it alone, like we have on all of these. Several ways to think about it. If you had 3 over 3, what fraction does that equal to? Well, it's equal to 1 whole. So it's the same as saying 3.14 divided by 3.14. What is that equal to? Well, it's equal to 1. But when to keep everything balanced, what we do to one side, we do to the other. And we have divided by pi here. Now this cancels out, and you end up with, and I'm just writing it because my brain works left to right, d equals c divided by pi. This is the part that you have to remember. You don't have to show that first step out each time. That's where that comes from, and it's no different from thinking about 10 equals 2x. What's x? Well, you would divide 2 here, and you would divide 2 here, and x equals 5. So it's the same process of using actual numbers, but right now we're just using variables because we're going to change the circumference every time we use it. So now I have my equation, and I have d equals 56 divided by 3.14, and then I go to my calculator, and I would have written this line first. You always have to have these 3 lines, so formula, plug in the numbers for the variables, and calculator. 56 divided by 3.14. Really long decimal, so again you have to use your rounding rules. You want to keep 2 decimal places. What's after the 3? Well, it's a 4, so we're going to leave it alone. 17.83. So we have 17.83. Now what if the question said also find radius? Well, now we know our diameter. How do we compare diameter and radius? Well, it's half of that. So we have d equals, radius equals diameter divided by 2. And you have 17.83 divided by 2. Calculator work. 17.83 divided by 2 is 8.92. This 5 bumps up that 1. 8.92 meters. And that is calculating circumference, diameter, and radius using any of the variables given, so you can move in any direction. For finding radius in this last one, you can use this full equation and work backwards like we did with this. Either way is fine. From here you should be able to remember what a circumference is, and you should be able to define the ratio of pi. You should be able to state more than pi is just 3.14. Pi is the ratio of circumference to diameter. So those are 2 important definitions that you should be able to use to help explain things.